Hi, Tiffany. How are you?
Good, Leslie, how are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Hey, Richard.
He's on mute.
Hello, ladies. How are you doing?
How are
Good,
you?
how's it going?
All righty. Who's on here?
Good. Does anybody remember what time I sent the link today?
2:17.
2:17.
Yep.
I wish I had a little more control of that.
Of Alan?
No, Mr. Lopez, of the meeting invites.
We can make it happen.
Good luck.
I'm
with
glad
that,
my
huh?
mic was off when you said that.
Alan just said that's what she meant, though.
Hey,
Good
John.
afternoon, everybody. Hello.
How you
John,
doing,
Oh,
John?
I'm going to go on mute because I'm outside on my back patio and somebody's
That's
ready to-
nice.
Yeah, it's a nice day. Might as well take advantage of it. Hopefully it starts raining and snowing here in a couple days, though.
Yeah, we need it.
In my
I
line of
hope
business,
so.
we need it bad.
yes.
Erica, are you here?
Yeah, Erica's there.
Erica, I see Bruce is in the attendee and not on the panelist. Is he going to?
I know. I was just texting with him and sent him the link that I used.
No, you can't. He can't
Oh, you
use your
can't.
link, Erica, or he'll come in as Erica. At 2:16, he should have got an email with the link.
Okay, I'll send him a text now.
Yeah, if he uses yours, we'll have two Erica Gonzalez's.
All right, hold on.
Erica, I just resent the link to him again.
Okay. Let me see. Technology overload. Right?
Yes.
But
Hey, Aaron.
There's Bruce.
So do we have everyone that we need to get started on the first item?
We
Okay.
do.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order then at 4:01. And we'll start with roll call. Aaron Ham,
Present.
Richard Lopez,
Present.
Tiffany Pickle, present. John Swigert,
Present.
and Julio Valadez is not present. Okay, so we'll go ahead and stand for the salute. Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
So move, Tiffany.
I
Thank
second.
you.
I second.
Thank you, Erin. We'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Leslie, I'm an I, okay?
Thank you.
I am also, do you want us to log in for the next vote or?
It's saying I is fine if you want to do it that way.
Okay, motion passes 4-0. All right, we have resolution 7-20. Is that
That's me.
Peter? Okay, Dr. Weimer.
Good evening, President Pickle and board members. We have a wide cast for you here tonight. First thing we will do is have each one of them introduce themselves, and as you do, maybe you could tell us a little bit about what you actually do in this process, so they kind of put a little bit that together. If you have any questions for any of them, we would take that at that point. After that, I do have one change in the resolution that I will show for you, and then you can ask staff any questions you want at that point too. So let's go ahead and start with John. John, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hey, good evening. Some of you may recognize me. I've been to a couple of different board meetings and seen you at different conferences. But, my name is John Isom, and I'm with Isom Advisors, and we are the district's municipal advisor. What that means for the district is that we are your fiduciary. And so we've got a legal obligation to the district to provide you advice that is in your best interest, not my interest, not the company's interest, but the district's best interest. So we kind of play that role in helping to not only manage this process from let's go ahead and get these bonds sold to money in the bank, but specifically that role of, all right, is this good advice financially for you? Whether that's helping with the rating process, insurance, reviewing the legal documents, the structure of the financing, and then ultimately, if this continues to proceed, it'll be the pricing of the bonds. And when you sell those to investors, our role is to, again, negotiate the best deal that we can on your behalf so that the taxpayers pay the least amount of taxes and the district gets the most amount of money. So that's a little bit about us.
And Don, you want to go next?
Great, thank you. Good evening. My name is Don Field, and I'm with the law firm of Warwick, Harrington, and Sutcliffe. We're serving as the district's bond counsel, and so we're responsible for preparing the legal documents before you for approval, as well as the disclosure document that will go to investors that we've helped staff prepare. So if there's any questions that you have relating to the authorization to go forward with this next series of bonds or any of the legal documents that you're approving, I'm here to answer those for you. Thank you.
And Bruce?
Good afternoon. I'm Bruce Kearns. I work for Stiefel Nicholas and Company, and we are the underwriters to the district. It's our job to find those bond investors that John Isom was just speaking about that'll purchase the district's bonds at the lowest possible interest rates. So our goal is to find those investors, get them interested in the bonds, and sell bonds to investors so that overall, you have a loan that you can pay back at the lowest possible annual costs, and the taxpayers within the school district have the lowest possible tax, because it is the repayment of the bonds that results in the property tax that's the source of repayment of the general obligation bonds that we're speaking about tonight.
And Erica?
Hi, good evening. Erica Gonzalez with Stifel Nicholas and Company as well. I work alongside Bruce to help in accomplishing the goals as Bruce has outlined very nicely for us.
So board members have any questions that would deal with the technical pieces, the attachments, interest rates, timeline processes, or any of those types of things? They would be happy to answer your questions on any of those. And then again, if you have more specific questions for district staff, we'll take those a little bit later.
I'll jump in. I have one question. Do we have I guess, a change in value of what we anticipate of what's available to sell from where we were last week to this week?
We have no change to any of the amounts that the district expects to borrow, nor the limits on the borrowing that are displayed in the resolution that you have before you. The sole difference between last week and this week, and Scott may be about to point to this, is an assumption with respect to the growth of the district's assessed valuation. That's the taxable property value within the territory of the district. The amount of the assessed valuation has a direct impact on the property tax rate that would result from the sale of the bonds. And there's a change in one number associated with the assumption, that being that the assessed valuation growth in the future is assumed for the purposes of the analysis that's been provided to you of 5.0%, which is a rate of growth that is lower than the 35-year average growth that the district has experienced in assessed valuation in the past.
So let me go ahead and follow up here with that real quick, and let me share my screen and I will point it out to you here real quickly. So when we do the resolution, I will be adding to the recommendation from the district right here on the bottom of page 26, which is A1, Schedule A1. In the notes, it says the estimated change in AV over the term of the bonds is 4.75%. We would like to change that to 5.00%, but it does not change any of the information within the chart or schedule or any of the expectations on what we're expecting to get for a receipt. It's just this was based on a 5.00, not a 4.75. So we just need to make that one correction. Any other questions on interest rates, timing, technical details?
Well, I guess that was sort of more my question. The interest rate, I haven't followed the market. So has it changed much? Do we anticipate it to change between now and tomorrow? Obviously, well.
Well, interest rates have been extremely low and have continued to be very low in recent weeks. And so we would expect that the overall borrowing cost that's outlined in the documents before you will be no higher than those amounts when it comes time to actually sell bonds and fix final interest rates to the repayment of those bonds. So this is a wonderful time to issue bonds if you're a borrower, as the district is, and the low interest rates will provide the lowest possible repayment costs and the lowest possible tax rates as a result.
And I just add to that. First off, I realized, I was like, oh, this is a special board meeting. Thank you for jumping through this hoop to have this, special board meeting to consider this. I am partly to blame if you're wondering why you're having to do this at 4 o'clock. In my conversations with Scott back in December, I said, hey, interest rates are at historic lows. This is the kind of time you want to lock in, and your community will get more bond money in a low interest rate environment than a high interest rate environment. Goes without saying, right? And then there was a number of things. There was the Senate race, there's the inauguration, there's the transfer. There are all these big question marks. And I say, who knows where interest rates will be? So let's hurry and get it done. Let's not wait until, mid-February at the regular scheduled board meeting. That's why we have this meeting that we are having today. To echo Bruce's comments, we haven't seen a significant increase in rates. I think there's been a little bit of a creep up in rates, but I was on a pricing call just today, and the underwriter explained to us that there is just no supply. I think a lot of districts went into the market in before the presidential election in November. I think a bunch of went in the market to get it all done before January. And now we're sitting here and there's just really not a lot of folks there. So there's no supply. So at least the underwriter that we spoke with today was very optimistic that rates are going to hold, at least in the near term and then in the foreseeable future. We're kind of pushing this along again because it's just a big win for the taxpayers if we can lock in super low rates. But to your question, Aaron, I think it's been surprisingly stable, but things can change, and things, when people feel too good about the markets and life and vaccines are here and now we got a new president, things will calm down. Interest rates, tend to creep up on something like that. So apologies if you want to blame someone for the special board meeting. I'm going to take some of that responsibility, but so far so good. We're really optimistic that we can get a great result for the district if things hold for the next couple of weeks.
And does somebody want to talk to the timing? When will we know exactly what we're going to get, and what does pricing calls mean? And just give them a quick overview on that.
I guess I could just handle that. Yeah, as far as timing goes right now, if the board takes action tonight, we get the official authorization to proceed. We're expecting to get a rating back later this week. It's the credit score that all municipal issuers have when they go to market. The better our credit, the cheaper it is going to be for us to borrow money. I think we are scheduled, and we'll peek at the distribute what's called the preliminary official statement. It's part of the packet that you guys have on the 26th. And then we are looking to price, or excuse me, the 29th or 27th. I guess it doesn't matter. Let's just say, next week. And then the first week in February, Scott, is when we would have a two-part pricing. The first part is a pre-pricing call where we establish what we think is going to be acceptable to investors and what the underwriters are recommending. This is part of where we do our negotiations with the district and the team and say, all right, well, this is what we're seeing. And we all agree on a pre-pricing call to specific, terms of a bond sale, what interest rates, how many years, what's the yield going to be, what are the coupons going to be, et cetera, et cetera. And then the next day is the final pricing call where the underwriter comes back with real data. And they said, hey, by the way, this morning, I got orders for this many bonds. I don't have orders for all of them, but I've got orders for 80% in 2023, 100% in 2024. And we get this full report back. And at the conclusion of that call, if everything goes well, that's when there is an agreement between you, the district, and then the underwriters. Because the underwriters have all these investors that are lined up, but nothing official until you, the district, with our recommendation, authorize the financing. At that point in time, so now we're talking the first, maybe the February 3rd, at that point in time is when it gets locked in. So we're not that far away from being able to lock in, these historically low rates. And then usually about 2 or 3 weeks later, Don Field and the attorneys have a lot of legal documents that we need to do to close the deal. But usually that's about 2 to 3 weeks. And that's when the district gets money in the bank. So lock in first week in February, close second to last week in February or last week in February, money in the bank.
Anybody else want to add anything to that, or?
No, I think John did a very good job of summarizing the process. But I think, posting the POS next week and getting into the market the first week of February, I think is going to be very timely in terms of locking in rates near historic lows. And as John mentioned, the demand for municipal bonds it is very strong. And because there hasn't been the supply to meet that demand, we continue to see interest rates remain stable. So we're excited to get into the market and solicit those orders from investors.
Any other questions? No questions for Dr. Weimer?
So I went through the one piece that I needed to show you. So I don't want to pull that up again. I will put that as part of the recommendation when I make it. Are there questions for our staff before we move on to the recommendation? If I don't hear any, I will go ahead and make that recommendation. The superintendent recommends the board adopt resolution 07-20 authorizing the sale and issuance of not to exceed $20 million aggregate initial principal amount of a general obligation bond with a change to the note on Schedule A1 from 4.75% to 5.00%.
Move to accept the resolution.
I'll second it.
Call for the vote then? Okay, motion passes 4-0. Thank you to all of you for attending our meeting and answering the questions for us.
You're welcome. Thanks for the invitation, and the ability to see you all again. Nice to see you.
Yeah, our pleasure. And hope for not good news for another 10 days, guys. Where interest rates stay low is when there's bad news out there. So 10 more days of bad news, and then we'll restore life as we once knew it.
Thank you.
All right, guys, good to see you.
I think the next part is the Moody's rating on Friday, and then we get going.
That's right. That's right. All right, guys.
Thank you all for joining.
Have a good night. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, last item, governance protocols. Did everybody receive them? Had a chance to go over them. They're not new. I know we've all seen them before. So how do we want to go about reviewing these? Do we, since we have seen them before and we're at least somewhat familiar, do we just want to address the ones that might need revision?
That seems like a good plan to me, Tiffany.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Alan, as we go through these, I know there are some that are going to directly impact you in your role. So please feel free to, chime in where necessary.
Yeah, I only have a comment on 3 of them.
Okay. Okay. Anyone want to start us off? Are there
Yeah,
any that are?
yeah, Tiffany, I'm sorry. I'll start off. I mean, did you want to go numerical order or the ones that I think we need to, kind of revisit?
We can just go with the ones. I think there is probably some consensus on the ones that we want to address.
Okay.
So we could start there and then
Yeah.
Just make any revisions that we need to. So I think some of
Yeah.
them are probably
Okay. I think for me, I would like to visit number 16 on school visitation by board members. I don't think, Alan or anybody on our staff and cabinet is opposed to any of us just popping in a casual drop off or drive by as we typically do. But I think there should be a strong emphasis on our behalf as a board to at least the courtesy to Alan, whether email, text, or just a phone call let them know that we stopped by, you know, Merced High School. Hey, I just parked. I'm on my way in. I just want to scope things out, or whatever that may be. You know, versus, you know, just as notify him after the visit. I think courtesy should be, you know, prior to the visit, prior to stepping onto the campus. It doesn't take but, you know, 30 seconds and just to send him a quick text. So that's my opinion on that one.
Do we want to emphasize because the first part of that is members should notify the superintendent when they desire to visit classrooms or meet with staff. Do we want to eliminate that last line and just leave it as is with that deletion, with the expectation that that we plan accordingly and we notify the superintendent when we want to arrange a visit, and then he can forward that to the site?
I'm good with whatever Alan is comfortable with there. It seems like he's been super flexible, and I know I've given him 30 minutes notice before and it's been fine, but it's just courtesy of the notice, right?
Yes, 100%. Yes.
I'm fine with it as is. It's no sweat.
And I think, you know, for me, Alan, was just the surprise, you know what I'm saying? And to catch you off guard or whatever that may be, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's one thing that we want to see things, you know, for ourselves. But at the same time, I think we owe it to you too. So.
Well,
yeah, it's really not even me. It's the principal.
Yeah, it's super disruptive to show up and just expect that they're going to drop everything on our behalf. So
correct. Yeah.
You know, unless there's someone else that's going to show us around, we can't just walk on campus and. Yeah.
Do we want to strike that last line then and put something in there about, you know, plan visits, you know, give prior notice before visiting, or just leave it the first line?
I think a lot of you have students. I think you inadvertently get into visits occasionally that you don't plan. So I think that last line is fine.
Okay. As long as you can live by it, I'm good with it. So.
Okay. All right. So 16 we'll leave as is. What else?
I would like to see if we can add something, you know, as we deal with this pandemic thing and virtual meetings, you know, because I know that we do the teleconferencing, you know, via phone if we can't attend in person. But I think there has to be a better effort on our part. And we're going to be doing these Zoom meetings, you know, for a while, that we do our best to log in and have our cameras on at all times throughout the meetings, both closed and open. Obviously, you know, the perceptions out there that, you know, when you've got a black screen, you know, I mean, come on now, we're having a public meeting. And so I'd like to see if all trustees can, you know, make sure that we have our cameras on. And if they can't, for whatever reason, due to, you know, technical or Wi-Fi issues, you know, then the district can provide us, I mean, they provided us all a device, you know, and we also probably have access to Wi-Fi to the district so that there's no loss of connectivity. So.
I agree. John and Aaron, how do you guys feel about that? That's something we'll really all have to be on board with.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I guess I've been guilty in the past of not having my video screen on for whatever reason, but yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Ditto. I think it's respectful to the community.
If I can add, yeah, exactly, Aaron. It is really important that your constituents see you engaging in a public meeting. And I would go a step farther and make it a requirement if you're comfortable with that.
I am. I actually have a proposal for you, and that is adding this to item 11, you know, maybe it's just as a bullet. I would even look at striking some of the verbiage. I mean, some of these are very verbose and they address, very specific behaviors. But, we spend a lot of time and create a lot of verbiage to address, certain actions instead of just really having a reasonable expectation that we are going to behave and engage appropriately. How do you feel about striking the language, "We will be open-minded," down to the bottom? And this is referencing number 11, and then adding some verbiage about the virtual meetings. I mean, it's expected behavior.
I'm fine with that, Tiffany. The only thing I would say is I do think it's important that we keep in here that we not react to impromptu complaints, because some people like to. So I think it's good to have that spelled out.
Okay. Keep that part. How would you feel about adding something to the effect of, it's a little broad, but again, it's an expectation. During virtual meetings, board members will have cameras enabled. Board members are responsible for ensuring they have the equipment needed to actively engage in meetings. And so that would be an expectation that there's, a enabled camera, that you have a Wi-Fi. And if those things are not available, I'm confident that Mr. Peterson could provide a hotspot or, a laptop or something like that, so that we are able to participate in the meetings.
Works for me.
Yep.
Fine by me.
Okay. And Julio, we're just addressing board protocols, and we're looking at number 11 right now. Okay, any others?
I have a comment.
Are you talking to me?
No, I'm talking to everybody. I have a comment on number 12.
No, I was talking to Aaron.
I was just letting know where we are.
Sorry, go ahead.
On number 12, avoid marathon meetings. Meeting with me in person, meeting with me through Zoom, meeting with me on the phone helps alleviate a lot of those questions. If you can't do that, just emailing the questions ahead of time. That's one part. A second part, and this is not a criticism, it is just kind of a fact on this board, and that there is a lot of back and forth in reports and action items. There are boards that limit the conversation to one comment on an action item and one comment on a report. I'm not suggesting we need that to be a protocol, but I am pointing out that there are remedies, because in meetings, you all like to express yourself and make your point and sometimes counterpoint, and you don't want to take that ability away, but you all, almost all, or many, I will say, complain about the length of the meeting. So, we got to find that happy medium and how to make that work for everyone.
Yeah, it's within our control.
Yes.
Well, I also think in part it's the length of the agenda at times is a lot, and closed session sometimes runs long, and well, in addition to what you just said, I wondered if we should put a cap on the length of a meeting. I think, we all work, we join these meetings afterward, and we kind of become rummy by a certain point in time. And 5-hour Zoom meetings are as painful as 7-hour in-person meetings. I don't know if there's an option on that. I know we always have that second meeting that we hold in case it's needed. I don't know. I'd rather have one hour meeting in addition to like this than crazy long once a month meeting. But that's me, and I don't know that that's the majority.
I would prefer a single meeting, except where we have to have special board meetings, as needed. But I think some of it comes to preparedness and asking what questions we can or clarifications prior to the meeting. I know some of it has to happen during the meeting. And there are some very good questions that are asked, very good points that are made. And like Mr. Peterson said, we have to be able to do that. We have to be able to ask those questions, represent our constituents, and make the best decisions possible. But I think you're right. Sometimes we have lengthy agendas, and I think part of that is just there's just a lot going on in high schools. So I don't know. I mean, that's not a solution by any means, but I think if we could shorten them a little bit, if we took care of some items prior to the meeting as much as possible, just clarification questions, things of that nature that will help us make a decision. And then maybe just stick to, fewer comments and questions during the meeting.
So are you are you talking directly to me?
Oh, no.
I prepare a lot in advance. I ask a lot of questions in advance, but I can sometimes be long-winded at meetings, and I know that, and I've tried to get better a bit at late. But I need to know if I'm still talking too much.
Not at all. Erin, I think you are incredibly prepared and very knowledgeable, and that helps you ask some very good questions. I think questions that are valuable for all of us to hear that we might not always think of. So no, not by any means. I just think where it's appropriate, if it's just a clarification question and we could ask that ahead of time, I don't know if it's going to shorten our meetings a whole lot, but just as a general practice. But to answer your question, no, not speaking to you specifically. No, not at all.
I think the more
So the questions I ask.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Julio.
So the questions I ask are questions that I want public to hear, because vote. And they don't hear why we're doing it or have questions on it. They don't know that we've already had our questions answered in closed sessions, and come out and ask those, some of the same questions in public. And so I asked those questions so that the public, I think that some of the questions I ask, so that's when that's the type of questions I ask. And normally if I'm asking, I already know the answer.
Julio, you're cutting in and out, and you're at least frozen on my screen. I don't know on everybody else's.
His point was that, if I may, Tiffany, was that when he has questions, he generally knows the answer ahead of time, but he wants the public to hear the question and answers.
Is there a way we can provide that information maybe more efficiently then? If those answers are already known and it's just being provided for the public, maybe those questions could be sent to Mr. Peterson and just addressed in the presentation, or.
Yeah, go ahead and send them your questions.
Well, we're trying to find something that's going to work for us collectively, Julio.
I find that that's
Well,
helpful.
that'll work collectively. I think.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Well, I was just going to say, I find it very helpful to ask as many questions as I can ahead of time. I think it helps Alan and Cabinet button up their presentation a little bit and at times be more succinct and at other times go into greater depth. And then I know when I ask them the question, they're going to have an answer and we need an answer. The public deserves an answer, right? Versus I'm going to have to get back to you. And then, you know, that just, then the public doesn't hear the answer. So I think it's beneficial to ask it ahead of time. And if it's then not addressed in the presentation, to ask again. That's been my experience. I think Cabinet and Alan are always very responsive, and I don't always give them as much lead time as they deserve.
Okay.
That's a great suggestion.
The problem sometimes is my emails don't get answered too. So the only opportunity I have sometimes is at the board meeting.
If you don't get an answer to your email, I would definitely hope you ask at a board meeting.
That's what I do.
Do we need to change any verbiage then, or we're just in agreement that we're going to make a more concerted effort to ask those questions ahead of time? Which, like you said, Aaron, helps Cabinet prepare their presentations.
You know, we build the agenda to try to get out of there at 8. You know, I'm hopeful and think sometimes it's going to be 7 or 7:30, but it's usually more like 8 or 8:30. And yes, we've had a couple that have gone past 9. I think 9 is definitely the end target time. That's how my brain works anyway. You know, so we do give thought to that. And if you have noticed the last few months since we last had this conversation, agendas have been more succinct and spread out and not so much in a particular month.
Much appreciated and noted.
Yeah, I don't mind if we do 2 meetings or 1. I'm okay with it. What I would like is that we start them at least at 5 p.m. and not earlier than that, so that we have more people getting off work and are able to view, attend, or listen to the meetings live.
Since we have at least an hour usually of closed session before the public joins, I prefer to start at 4 so that we can finish sooner. I'm not a night owl, so the longer we go, the more I fade. But is that a hardship for you, Julio, with your schedule? I notice that you're often late, so I do want to be respectful of everyone's schedule.
Yeah, I have always asked that we do start at least at 5. I think also by 6 p.m. More people are off and done and maybe got a bite to eat and are able to, well, I guess if they're home right now, they can actually be listening or watching. But I would prefer 6 for the public and 5 for us. I ask that every time they ask about a public, a special board meeting, I always say after 5, but
well, I think
never.
Generally changing our meeting times, is that you usually, you know, an action item, a separate item where we are voting on our meetings? Because right now our meetings are set at 4:30. Our special board meetings have been 4. At our regular meetings, open session is at 5:30, which is generally after people are home from work. So, I mean, is there any need to entertain a change in start time?
Well, we can make our special meetings, you know, whenever we want. So it's consensus when we hear 4 board members say, 4 o'clock and one says 5, it's going to be 4 o'clock. I mean, that's just how that works. From a standard monthly meeting point of view, Leslie, do you know the answer to, when we do our yearly plan, is the time included in that, or could we change the time?
I believe that it's in our board policy about meetings, that our meetings are the second Wednesday of the month and they start at 5:30.
Yeah, I think personally, I'm happy with the way that is. Special board meetings, I wouldn't be opposed to starting those at 4:30 as well. That's just my thought.
So I understand, Aaron, your concern, and I understand that. So I'm just, like I said, I'm saying my opinion, and if the majority agrees. If they don't, they don't. That's I would, like I said, I always would prefer a little bit later for both me and the rest of the public that works, a normal day.
So Julio likes 4, or Julio likes 5. I like 4. 4:30 is where we currently start, with the public joining us at 5:30. That seems like a fair compromise.
Which is our current policy.
Right, exactly. Unless other people have different sentiments.
Okay.
So are we okay on the protocols then? Are there any others that we need to look at?
I don't think we need to, I just have one other comment. I don't think we need to change anything on 14. I just think we all need to be aware that we get off topic occasionally during meetings, and we talk about non-agendized items occasionally. And it's just something we all need to be aware of.
I do want to go back to the other one where we're talking about site visits. I want to clarify that I had given notice in the past. I've asked Alan even to come with me. I have those emails where I asked Alan to come with me if he wanted to, but it was never done. And so that's when I said, well, I guess I can just go. And since Alan said that all I needed to do was text you from the parking lot, that's what I'll do.
We just had some discussion on that, Julio, and there's no change to the verbiage, but with the understanding that we do notify Mr. Peterson, and we do so in a timely manner as much as possible, and that we plan our visits to the best of our ability for the site. It is a disruption.
I do. Yeah, I know, I get that. And I respect people that respect me. So I agree. And so they show me respect. I show respect. And I'm talking about Alan. I'm not talking about any principles or anything like that. But yes, I will notify or whatever, whatever's on the board policy, just like he asked me to do it 2 meetings ago, was text him when I'm there. He said that's what Aaron does, so that's what I'll do as well.
Okay. So I think we're agreed.
But one thing is, I told everyone that nothing needs to change for me. If I do go, they shouldn't anyways. No one should change anything for any of us because we're going to visit. It's just, we're going to come by if they, if they have a full plan. I don't expect anyone to change anything for me at all. So just to make that clear. If it's a special thing we're going to go do as a board or as a board member, then that's different. But if I wanted to visit a site, there's, I don't ask for anyone to make any special changes or arrangements or anything like that for me.
No, we don't ask, but they will. And so because they feel that obligation to do that, it does create a disruption if we were to just drop by. but I think we're in agreement that we will notify Mr. Peterson, plan those visits out of courtesy to him and to the site principals. Okay. So is there any other discussion on the protocols? Are we ready? Yes.
I think one more thing with it was last year. John had brought up the fact that they had certain policies and we were sent those policies and we were supposed to come back and look at it, but we never did. I'm just curious, did any one of you ever read that or look through them? I know I did, but we never followed up with that.
What policies are you referring to?
I'm sorry, the MID board policies. They were sent to all of us back when John said, that MID had certain. He wanted us to look at MID's protocols, and they were sent to us. I don't know that week, and then we never followed up. So maybe we can look at them again. For now, I mean, we'll go with this, but maybe we can look at that again and see if there's any way to make improvements to ours.
Well, we do have a policy at MID. It's called the Board of Directors Standards of Conduct. It's a much more comprehensive policy that covers a lot more topics aside from just board protocols. I think it's fine to adopt what we have right now, but I think we probably need something a little more specific and a little more broad, not just for us, but for future board members. Being a board member is a significant responsibility and encompasses a lot of things aside from just how we conduct ourselves in a board meeting, whether it's in person or on Zoom. There's a lot more that goes along with being a competent, reliable, trusted public official. So yeah, I did send that. I think it's worth me resending and having everybody take a look at it. So I'll just leave it at that. But I think, yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, if you don't mind sending, that would be great. I don't remember seeing it previously.
Yeah, I don't recall either, but that was a while ago, so it's a little bit of a blur, but that would be great, John. Thank you. Sounds like it could be useful.
Yeah, definitely. I when I read it, I did see some areas so that not only I mean, you guys are pointing at me, I follow the protocols that we say, but so do we all follow them, because we seem to be selective on when and which protocols we want to follow. So I think it would benefit all of us, not, all of us as a whole. And like John said, for the future as well.
We ready to call for a vote then?
So we're not making any changes?
We made just a few slight changes. Yeah, some of those occurred before you came into the meeting. So we can, really the only change was adding a bullet or a few lines to number 11 on meeting protocols, that cameras will be enabled, and it's responsibility of the board members to make sure they have the equipment needed to engage in the meetings, whether that be cameras, Wi-Fi, hotspots if that's needed, with the expectation that we're fully engaged. And that was really the only change.
I moved to a.
So you're saying that because of the last, I was at a different location and I did not have access to it. I did leave the microphone on so that your concern of me having someone else in my room with me was addressed, which I didn't have anyone there. I didn't appreciate that comment, but anyways, I left the microphone on the whole time so you guys could hear everything that was going on in my office.
We just want to add that, especially with, the increase in virtual meetings, which we will, probably be participating in for a while. So we just want to make sure that that's a clear expectation. That's all. Okay.
I move to adopt the,
Well, sometimes I'm gonna be in locations like right now that I may not be able to, so
Go ahead, Erin.
I move to
sorry, Erin.
adopt the board governance protocols with the modification to number 11 meeting protocol as Tiffany outlined.
I'll second it.
Okay, we'll call for the vote then.
Mrs. Pickle, I failed to add in Mr. Valadez to the roll. Mr. Valadez, if you want to say your vote out loud, I will make note of it in the minutes and add it to the item. My apologies.
I sent you a text, but it's no.
Okay. So Mrs. Pickle, the board doc shows 4 ayes, but Mr. Valadez's vote is a no.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. The motion passes 4-1. And just a reminder that it is our responsibility to support the collective decision of the board. And with that, we will adjourn at 4:52.
Thanks, everyone. I like
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night.
Right after.
Bye.
Good night.